So here's a special I should have done ages ago, but I've only just discovered. It's the King of Horror Stephen King book tag. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is a place where I talk to you about all things Stephen King. A couple of quick plugs before we start. You can pick up my collection of short stories, Once More Around the Sun, which won a few awards this year. And if you like, you can become a member of this channel. Yes, you can become a constant viewer, get access to exclusive members only content, early access to regular videos, some fun emojis, and all of that nice kind of stuff. If you're interested in any of those, links are in the description. Right, I have to start this special with an apology. So this special is me taking part in a book tag that was created by Jess Bookgirl TV. Now, Jess created this tag over a year ago, and not only was she brilliant enough to come up with the tag and come up with the 18 questions I'm going to answer for you in this special, but she was also kind enough to tag me in it, to invite me to play along. And then shortly after, Esteem did the same, tagged me to play along. Unfortunately, I literally only just discovered that I'd been tagged in these videos a few days ago. So I've gone over a year, almost giving the impression that I was ignoring these tags, when really I would have loved to have played when this first did the rounds a year ago. But better late than never, right? Here we are. I'm going to go through this special now. Thank you both for tagging me, and sorry it's taken so long for me to get here. Okay, so this tag is really simple. Jess, who created it, came up with 18 questions, which I've put in the description and I'll obviously go through in the special. They're all about Stephen King and my relationship to Stephen King, and I'm just going to go through and answer them, and I will keep them as spoiler-free as possible, so you don't need to worry about that. So come along, play this tag with me, and if any of my answers make you flinch at all, well, never flinch, obviously, haha, but seriously, let me know if any of my answers particularly catch your attention for whatever reason. Okay, let's do it. It's the King of Horror Stephen King book tag. Okay, so question 1 is, how did I get into reading Stephen King? And to be honest, I think it was a path that I was always going to end up going down. So when I was younger, one of my earliest authors I got into was Roald Dahl. And there's something deliciously dark about Roald Dahl's children's stories that I think opened me up to the world of spookier, darker stories. And then from Roald Dahl, I progressed to Goosebumps, like a lot of kids my age did when those books were blowing up in the 90s. So again, kind of going down that darker path. And then at school, I was really fortunate to be taught by an incredible English teacher who did a brilliant job of teaching us The Lord of the Flies and Macbeth as a set text for Shakespeare. Now, Lord of the Flies, obviously a huge influence on Stephen King, and I think is a very dark story in itself. And Macbeth, of all of the Shakespeare stuff I could have studied, yes, I got to do the one with murder and lots of death and just real darkness around it. So I think all of that gave me a really good grounding and was just making me prepared to read darker stuff. Also, coupled with the fact that my mum, right from an early age, had always recommended me giving Stephen King a try at some point. She'd read quite a lot of his books and continues to read his books, and had always thought I would get on well with him. So all of that was there brewing in the background. And then fast forward to 2010. So I was 24, nearly 25. And I was in a charity shop where I lived at the time. So a Goodwill store for those of you watching in America. And this was like before the It movie came out in 2016, obviously. So before that sort of big boom in Stephen King stuff. And charity shops in England, generally you don't have to look in many charity shops to find a Stephen King book. And at this point, they were just everywhere. And I was picking up books, and on a whim, I just decided, I'll give the Stephen King guy a go. So I picked up a book, Cujo, read that, and the rest was history. Within a few months, simply by going around charity shops, I'd picked up everything that Stephen King had out at that point. And yeah, I'd say from 2012 onwards, I was picking up stuff new. And I was a fully invested, fully immersed, constant reader. So question 2 is, what was the first King book you read? As I just mentioned, it was Cujo. An interesting one as a first read. The fact that there are no chapters, the story behind it, that King doesn't even remember writing it himself because he was so drunk at the time. And obviously there's references to some of the Castle Rock goings on from the Dead Zone, which I didn't really get the first time. But it worked for me as a first story. I grew up with dogs. That probably helped. And I loved the gut punch of an ending. And if you'd like my 19 reasons to read Cujo, you can find that on my channel. So next question is, have you read a Stephen King book published the year you were born? Well, yes, I have. The year I was born was 1985. And that would mean the book that came out that year was Skeleton Crew, and I've definitely read that a couple of times, and I'm pretty close to reading it again on my chronological reread, actually. And also, I'm pretty sure that 1985 was the year that the special edition of Silver Bullet / Cycle of the Werewolf came out, so the one that has Cycle of the Werewolf and the screenplay for the movie, because that came out in 85, and I've read that one as well. So next question is, do you prefer to collect his books in hardcover or paperbacks, or doesn't it matter to you? I mean, take a look at my shelves. It matters. Paperback. I am paperback all the way. I only buy hardbacks because I want to read his books when they come out, and generally I will then pick up the paperback and give away the hardback on social media. I don't like hardbacks. They're too clunky. They're too heavy. They feel like too much of a risk to take out in a bag with you, whereas paperbacks are just friendly, they're welcoming, and they're made for lugging around with you. And nothing warms my heart like a load of cracked, battered, old paperback spines, and you just can't do that with hardcovers. I don't like dust jackets, and they're too expensive. I mean, paperbacks are expensive, but hardcovers are just ridiculous. So yeah, paperbacks all the way. There's a reason why my collection, Once More on the Sun, I've only issued in paperback so far, because it's the best format. Oh crap. So next question is, how many of Stephen King's books are on your bookshelf? I'm gonna just need to take a quick moment to do some counting. I'll be right back. Okay, I make it 163. But there might be some that I've missed. A lot. So this question is that Stephen King is known for his long and gory novels. The question is, which of his novels were difficult for me to read? So in terms of the goriness, there are some definite scenes that I found tough to read. The degloving in Gerald's Game, most of the stuff with Gage in Pet Sematary, some of the stuff in Misery, Greg Stilson kicking the dog to death at the start of the Dead Zone. But in terms of a novel that I've found difficult to get through, it's not for the scariness or the goriness, but more for the I'm boredness. So Fairy Tale, I really didn't get on with at all. And right now, at the time of recording this, I'm doing my reread of The Stand, and I am not having a good time at all. Next question, have you ever did not finish DNF'd a Stephen King book? And the answer is no, much as I probably would have done with Fairy Tale, but I'm covering it for this channel, so I've got to get through to the end. And I'm a completist when it comes to Stephen King. I need to know what happens. Next question, have you read his books in publication order? Yes, I have. I didn't the first time around, I read them in whatever order tickled my fancy, but then I did a chronological reread that I started in January 2019, and I think it ran until sort of mid to late 2021. And as regular viewers around here will know, I've since started another chronological reread to document them all for this channel. So I started that with the 50th anniversary of Carrie in April of this year, 2024. Was a bit slow to then carry on with it, but as I just mentioned, I'm now up to The Stand, and that will be keeping me busy for the foreseeable future. The next question is, which Stephen King book have you not read that you'd like to read? And I mean, the short answer is I've basically read all of them. There are some short stories that haven't been collected that I haven't tracked down yet, that I'm sort of leaving to just pick up as and when I can. I guess the proper answer here is his unpublished novel, Sword in the Darkness. So this is one he wrote very early on in his career. I think it got rejected by like 12 different publishers. And I don't think it's ever likely to see the light of day, but it's that mysterious thing that I definitely want to check out. So I was reading a little bit more about it. So let me just pull up my notes here. So the manuscript for Sword in the Darkness is held in box 1010 at the Special Collections Unit of the Raymond H. Fogler Library at the University of Maine in Orono. Written permission from King himself is required to access this work. I mean, that's kind of why I want to write it. That's kind of why I want to read it, just to get written permission from King himself. So it's dated from April 30th, 1970. It's got 485 double-spaced type pages and is around 150,000 words long. And apparently the plot involves a character grieving the death of his pregnant girlfriend and mother, as well as another character, a Malcolm X-style lawyer, a Black Panther type, starting a race riot after speaking at a high school. King himself has said it is unpublishable. I mean, I'm certain we'll probably see it at some point, maybe after King's gone. But yeah, just like imagine the thrill of getting written permission from Stephen King to go and read that thing. I mean, I'd need to camp out in the library and stay there for a couple of days with it being 150,000 words, but it'd be worth it, right? So next question, name a book that King has written that other people like that I don't like. I mean, right now, The Stand, and also I'm not a big fan of Wizard and Glass either. I mean, I get why people like it, but it's not for me. Next up, name a book of his that you think is underrated. Well, I've done a whole special on underrated King books. You can check that out. But the ones I would always throw out to people, Rose Madder, From a Buick 8, and Hearts in Atlantis. So the next question is worded, creepy characters. Which Stephen King characters would you like to have dinner with? And my answer would be none of the creepy ones, but the ones I would get round for dinner, I'd have Johnny Smith from Dead Zone, Beverly Marsh from It, Jesse Burlingame from Gerald's Game, Wireman from Doo McKee, and probably Dolores Claiborne as well. Oh, and hey, let's get Charlie McGee from Firestarter around because I'm really curious to know what happened to her next. And, you know, she could help with the cooking. So next question, has Stephen King inspired you to start reading and writing? I mean, on the writing, definitely. The reading, I was already a voracious reader. But the writing, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have even attempted writing fiction without Stephen King's work being in my life. And my collection of short stories, Once More Around the Sun, is all set in a town called Kingsworth, and that town is named after King. And it's packed full of 19s as well. So if you do read that collection, see how many you spot. Next question. If you were able to meet Stephen King, what would you say? I would say, please, can I interview you for my YouTube channel? Like I mentioned at the end of that song that I made for you, that you retweeted back in the summer of 2024, can me and you just sit down for an hour and chew the fat about some of your underrated, underappreciated books? And also, why do you always kill the dog? Next question. Have you ever been to Bangor, Maine? No, I haven't, and I would love to. So I turn 40 next year in 2025, at the end of 2025. And I sort of suggested it to my wife as this idea of like, that'd be a fun way to mark turning 40, going out to Bangor, doing the Stephen King tour and all of that stuff. But honestly, I can't see it happening. Prices to do that sort of thing are just ridiculously crazy, sadly. But I would love to. And if anyone wants to fund me to do that and vlog it for this channel, then get in touch. So next question, which do you prefer more, his books or his movies? I mean, his books, definitely. They're just so much more rich than the movies, but there are a bunch of his movies that I hold very close to my heart, and I love them both enough to cover all of them here on this channel. Next question, name your favourite Stephen King movies. I mean, this is fairly easy for me. Ones I would particularly shout out, Stand By Me, Dolores Claiborne, The Dead Zone, the original Carrie, the original Pet Sematary, It Chapter 1, and then a guilty pleasure, but Sleepwalkers, for sure. And the final question isn't really a question, it's to tag some other channels to take part. Now, I'm literally coming to this a year late, so these channels might well have already done it, but the ones I was going to tag, well, I've put them in the description. We've got GKBC, we've got The Bookish Drummer, we've got Mike's Book Reviews, and Red Book Fury. If any of you want to take part in this, please feel free, and make sure you give the original credit to Jess because she came up with this tag. Thank you for tagging me, and I'm sorry it took so long, but I hope in some ways it was worth the wait. And thanks to Shelf Esteem as well. Okay, there we go. A bit of a different special. I hope you enjoyed it. Did any of my answers catch you out at all? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, if anyone else wants to tag me in challenges, please do, and I will pay much more attention to where my channel is being tagged. Now I know where I can find that thing in YouTube's analytics. So thanks, and I will see you all very soon.